Hi there. Welcome to another edition of Talk Stocks. I'm your host, Keith Reynolds, and today we're lucky enough to have Keith Bodnarchuk, President and CEO of Cosa Resources Corp. It trades on the TSX Venture Exchange with the ticker Cosa, C-O-S-A. Hey, Keith, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us for the first time. It's a great opportunity to kind of unpack what's going on with the company. I keep hearing about it all over the place, and you guys have a pretty nice looking stock chart. So thought it was about time that we tried to get your attention and get you on. So I appreciate it. Before we get going and really unpack, everything that's going on with Cosa, maybe we could kind of find out a bit more about yourself for those of us that don't know you. Could you talk a little bit about who you are and how, your background, how you got into this?
Yeah, certainly. So I grew up in rural Saskatchewan. Obviously, Saskatchewan's home to the highest grade and best uranium deposits in the world. And so when I was growing up, I always had friends who had family members that would be working in natural resources, whether it's going up north to northern Saskatchewan to work in the uranium mines. And so I always was naturally drawn to it, seeing that it was an obvious career choice growing up in that area. And then, obviously I enjoyed science, I enjoy outdoor adventure, and you kind of put those combinations together. It made sense for me to become an exploration geologist. So I took a geology degree at the University of Saskatchewan. I got on with Cameco in 2007 just as a summer student, but then post that summer, I was hooked on the treasure hunting aspect of uranium exploration. Ended up getting on Denison Mines on the back of the Phoenix discovery. That was in early 2009. I ended up working with them, and I worked with them for 10 years. Obviously there's a Phoenix discovery, Griffin discovery, really being able to work with a lot of great team members and really young geologists that, had a tremendous amount of success. And then I moved on. I was ready to move on, and I ended up taking an MBA at University of British Columbia, moved out to Vancouver, then ended up joining ISO Energy as lead of corporate development. And obviously we had the hurricane discovery that was around 2018. And so we drove that from obviously 30 cents to $6 before I ultimately moved on in 2021. And that's where I started to build Cosa Resources into what it is today.
Hey, excellent. Well, it sounds like you've really been along for the ride and helped drive a lot of what's been going on in the sector. 2007 was kind of an interesting time to get involved. That was sort of when the last time we had a pretty decent price, over $100 a pound for uranium. What any thoughts on sort of where the industry's at today?
Yeah, you know what? I think, geez, it really feels like we're heading into an unprecedented time in the uranium space. I think, it's long overdue that we're seeing the price of uranium go to what it is today. And, it has been an extremely underfunded industry for the past 12 to 15 years. And you're seeing that on the supply side, right? And you're seeing that with, we lost a lot of good people that moved on from the industry from 2007 onward. And so we're seeing really, an undersupplied market where you don't have the professionals that are involved in it, where they can really advance these projects. So that's why we see, really unprecedented times in the uranium space. And we can get to the supply and demand fundamentals, but really it's just something where I think it's a truly exciting time for uranium. And, we're at the forefront being an explorer in the Athabasca Basin.
So what's it like, sort of, you've been both on like the geological side and then the corporate development side. I guess this allows you to put both sides together, being at the helm of Cosa. What's it been like as CEO? What's a typical day in the life of a CEO at the helm of a uranium explorer look like?
Yeah, really, I guess my job is to answer to all stakeholders, whether that be employees, communities, investors. And my role is to provide a platform or the tools necessary for our team to succeed. And so a day for me is constant communication with communities that we're involved with investors, potential investors, really just trying to get the story out there. And importantly, though, I am the CEO talking to you today, but we are truly a team. I think we can get into that, but we're a team with a lot of strength. We're a team that has had our own successes in the past, and we've really, come together again to try and do that again with Cosa Resources. So I'm just one member of the larger team overall.
Right. That's a little bit about sort of the pitch of the company, right? Is that you kind of put the band back together again of some truly exceptional, explorers with a track record of discovery. Is that sort of a bit of the pitch of the company?
Yeah, for sure. I think in exploration, it's team is extremely important because the assets will come and go, and you'll continue to rotate through them until you ultimately make that discovery. And we are a group that has been, Craig Perry, a part of our group, involved in Next Gen. Denison Mines was myself and a few other members. Then obviously ISO Energy. We are the entire discovery team of the Hurricane Zone for ISO Energy. And so, like you said, we do have the band back together, and we do have that track record of making discoveries, and we're looking to do that again with Cosa Resources.
Excellent. Well, before we jump right into that, maybe we'll just back up a sec. We talked to you. You sort of laid the groundwork earlier, talking about some of the fundamentals of the uranium sort of fuel cycle, supply, demand, things like that. Anything you want to comment on in terms of why we might have attractive uranium fundamentals again after such a long, sort of barren, difficult market?
Yeah, so I think really it almost dates back to Fukushima, where you saw Germany shut down reactors, Japan shut down reactors, and you saw really a depressed, dark days for the uranium market. But what really happened in the background is countries like China continued to build reactors, India, places like that. And so the demand actually kept trickling up in the background to where we were a few years ago, where we actually passed pre-Fukushima demand levels. But what you saw was the price still remain depressed at that $30 to $40 a pound. And so, like I mentioned before, you had an industry where there was no new supply coming online. Most of the professionals had left the space. And so this created this kind of perfect storm where you had demand continue to increase, but yet supply was not going to be able to come online, and it was really undersupplied. And so, you look at a lot of different metals where they're talking about the electrification of the world and things like that, where future demand will be, well, the supply demand issues are happening currently in uranium. It's happening today. And then when you mix in those other factors about the green revolution and countries working towards that, you're looking towards unprecedented demand in a market where supply is really going to struggle to keep up with it. And so that's why you're seeing the prices move up the way they did. But what you're also going to see is, continued upward pressure on that price, for the foreseeable future.
I guess one of the things, normally if we were going to compare like nuclear power to other forms of power, your input of how you produce power, your fuel, so to speak. If the price dramatically ran up, it may not really be viewed as being a great sort of source of power to sort of adopt. But I guess nuclear is a little different. The U3O8, the uranium side of it, I guess the fuel rods and things like that are such a small component that even if you have a dramatic rise in spot and utility sort of price for the fuel, that it ultimately is not going to have it be as sensitive on the upward pressure of the cost of the underlying power that would be produced. Do I have that sort of correct?
I agree with that. And I think a good way to look at it too is that this re-rate was necessary. It was actually depressed the other way, and it's come up to a price where I think it should have always been for the past few years, and that upward pressure will continue from the increased level of demand. So I think it was depressed the other way, where we shouldn't have seen that $18 and $30 price of uranium. And so this rise up was just a re-rate to where I think it should have been, for the past few years.
Excellent. Well, thanks for explaining that. As an ultimate insider, I guess on the early side of that, I guess part of that, being an explorer looking to help develop, new eventual supply, are you starting to see, or are you hearing any of your buddies, friends, coworkers, starting to see any easier time of permitting of mines, or I guess any less bureaucracy and red tape to be able to move these things through the development cycle in Canada, in the Athabasca Basin itself?
Yes, I think, that is unique about Saskatchewan. I don't think I can comment on every jurisdiction, but Saskatchewan has had a blueprint for a long time about how to get a mine permitted and into production. It is a jurisdiction that not only allows uranium mining, it actually embraces it, right? Like I said, it's part of the community, part of the fabric of the community. Even myself growing up there, you notice that. And so I think really now with the price of uranium, there's more incentive for the development companies to really push through. Before, it would have been difficult to access that level of capital when you're sitting at $18 uranium, right? And so there is a blueprint that has always existed. And I think, when you actually go visit a uranium mine, the Cameco and St. McArthur River, and you'll actually see how small of a footprint it actually has. And these are very environmentally sound mines and operations. And so I think they Cameco and other groups like that have done a good job of ensuring that. And so I think it's as far as speeding up the process. I think there are probably certain ways you can do that, but I think Saskatchewan's kind of one of the few jurisdictions that has always had a blueprint, and you continue to see that when you see hopefully the next gens and other groups like that be able to come online here in the short term.
Great. I guess one of the things that's a little different about the Athabasca Basin is some of those mines are so rich that the actual tonnage or material that's actually moved would be quite small as compared to maybe a copper mine or a gold mine.
Sure. Yeah, no, exactly. I think, and that's why I said the footprint of these things aren't as large as you would think, and they're very, there's a level of safety that exists in them because you are dealing with uranium, and Cameco and Orano, other groups of that have really done industry leading safety measures in a lot of those areas.
Great. Well, why don't we turn our attention to Cosa? Maybe you could provide us like an overview. Maybe it's project, stage of exploration, how much ground you've been able to assemble, how you've assembled it. Maybe just give us an overview on the company.
Sure, certainly. So we are a uranium exploration company. Obviously, we have assets in the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan. Like we touched on, we are a news story, but we're led by a team with a track record of success, discoveries, and mostly, obviously in the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan where we've made those discoveries. And we're a team where we have that strength from top to bottom. And that really starts with our chairman, Steve Blower. He has an unmatched track record of discoveries in the Athabasca Basin. He was the VP of Exploration at Denison Mines when they expanded Phoenix and found Griffin. He's the VP Exploration of ISO Energy when they found Hurricane. And, when I was at ISO Energy, we sold some assets to 92 Energy, and Steve went over to help them on the board as a result of that. And they had a discovery at the GMZ zone. So, Steve really has that unmatched track record of discovery, and him, along with our VP of Exploration, Andy, have really been the brains behind the land package we've pieced together. Craig Perry, strategic advisor for us. He was a founding director of Next Gen Energy, founding director and CEO of ISO Energy. And so, he's had a tremendous track record on the corporate side of creating value in the uranium space. And then the final two guys, Andy Carmichael, who's our VPX, and Justin Rodko, were both part of the discovery team for ISO Energy. And so, as we mentioned, we do have that band back together again, but we're a group that's done this multiple times. We've done it in bear markets where we've created value. Even when the uranium price wasn't what it is today. And we're looking to do that again. And we've pieced together a land package that I think really sets us up to have a great opportunity to have another discovery. And so, it is an exciting time for us. Like I said, we are a news story, but we've done this multiple times, and we're looking forward to trying to do it again.
Well, it's a story I've certainly heard quite a bit about here recently. Your I think from valuation, stage of company, and attractive sort of stock chart. You've been in increasingly more chatter and discussion, especially with the significant team you put together. In terms of the land package, would you mind how much going into a bit more detail?
Sure.
What's your flagship project or projects? I was reading a bit on this Ursa. Maybe you could go into that.
Yeah, certainly. So when we listed this company, it was in, I guess, Q1 of 2022. We knew that it was going to be difficult, but we had to put our heads down for almost a year to piece together the land package we have today. And really, it was December of 2022 where we managed to stake the rest of Ursa to what it is today. And, Ursa, I'll talk about it. It is our top priority. We will be drilling there soon. But it's important to have that pipeline of projects. We don't really have a flagship until we have success. We've always taken that mentality of drill it and kill it.
Sure.
It's important to remember at ISO Energy, it was our 7th project where we ultimately found Hurricane. And so we've always taken that approach. If the project's not showing what we want, we'll move on to the next one. But we do have a certain recipe we like to look for when we acquire these projects, and ones that can really lead us, towards success. And Steve Blower always says that, our chairman says that, in order to set ourselves up best for success, locally, these deposits are very hard to find. I mean, you've seen that there's been probably 6 major discoveries in the past 20 years in the Athabasca. Locally, they're very hard to find, but regionally, there is a pattern to them. It's almost a string of pearls where you can map down from McArthur River past Griffin Phoenix all the way down to Key Lake. And we like to call these uranium corridors. And so Steve said, in order to set ourselves up best for success, we have to get as much land as we can within these uranium corridors or immediately adjacent to these corridors. So that's what we set out to do. We do have 200,000 hectares. They are all 100% owned. I don't really care about the number of hectares overall, to be honest. I think it's more about the quality of those hectares. And so with Ursa, it's interesting because, the east side of the Athabasca Basin is fantastic. That's where all the current uranium mines are. That's where all the current mills are. But it's starting to be extensively explored. It has been pincushioned over, the past few decades where there has been a lot of exploration done. So we thought to ourselves, where could that next great district be? Where could that next great uranium corridor be? Obviously NextGen and Fission are doing fantastic things over on the west side of the basin. But we thought to ourselves that, okay, we have to head deeper into the basin, into that next logical northeastern corridor, and that would be the Cable Bay Shear Zone, where our Ursa project is. And, our Ursa project covers about 60 kilometers of that Cable Bay Shear Zone. It's really that last great northeastern trend that hasn't seen a significant discovery yet. But, it's one where it ticks all those boxes for what we look for. And it is truly an analog to a lot of those great uranium corridors that exist, where McArthur River is and places like that. And if we are right about this corridor, we truly have the district scale size. The equivalent would be mapping down from McArthur River past Cigar Lake down to Griffin Phoenix for the amount of scale we have with our Ursa project. So it is our top priority. We did do airborne geophysics on it late last year. We just did ground geophysics and completed it, and we will be drilling it here within the next few weeks.
Hey, excellent. And have any of these projects ever seen historic drilling, or is this all a greenfield, new exploration?
So that's what is interesting about Ursa is that, so of the 16 kilometers, it's only seen 15 drill holes.
Okay.
Those were largely done in the 90s. And a good way to think about that is in the 90s, their geophysics, their drilling could target deeper than their geophysics. And so they were trying to do geophysics where they could identify a target to drill, but they could never prove that target. And so when we saw that, we're like, okay, this area is lacking modern exploration. Exploration has advanced a lot in the past 30 years. But interestingly enough, those 15 drill holes, a few of them did hit uranium mineralization, which tells you this is a fertile trend. It's only 0.2% over 0.2 meters, but that's often how these monster deposits start to show themselves, right? When we were at ISOEnergy, we followed up a little bit of elevated radioactivity in the sandstone, hit hurricane zone. Griffin at Denison was similar type thing, right? Where there was some elevated radioactivity in the basement, and they ultimately found Griffin by going down dip of that. So, that does check a box for us, and it goes to show that there was uranium fluids that were passing through there, and that's a main ingredient to why we really like that area. And interestingly enough, when we did fly our airborne geophysics over the area, it just goes to show that the holes were drilled in areas that we would not have drilled, and it wasn't a fault of the team at the time. It was just the technology. And so we were able to identify 10 key target areas. And so we did ground geophysics over top of it. Like I said, we will be drilling that soon. So it's a very interesting area, and it's one where I said it has all those same ingredients like we've seen at other projects where we've had past success and past discoveries. So that's what we find really exciting about it. And that historical work, anytime you have historical work, it just helps you vector in closer, and it always, it even if it tells you areas not to drill, right? And that's just important stuff too. So.
In terms of the type of drilling or where you're targeting, if would this sort of be like basement hosted or more traditional unconformity? Maybe you could get a little technical with us.
Sure. Yeah. So we'd be going after unconformity here, especially at the sandstone cover you have at Ursa. A good way to think about it is that you can really trace a structure for tens of kilometers. And then along that structure, you want to find where that alteration halo is in the sandstone. So that could be kilometer scale, like you would get at Cigar Lake. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you really have to hone in on the deposit itself, which could be 500 meters in length. So it is difficult to hone in on these things, but you do have those certain parameters and certain lead-ins to why you'd want to continue to target in the area. So on conformity, I think it's important to note that all basement deposits, especially ones with sandstone cover, all have an unconformity signature on them still. There is some uranium mineralization, so it's easier to go after the unconformity first, and then you would need a reason why to target the basement hosted, because the basement hosted it doesn't have that same alteration halo, it doesn't have other stuffs on its other components of it, so it makes it more difficult to hone in on those. And we are going after the Cigar Lake style, the MacArthur River, Phoenix, even Hurricane, ones that we've been involved in the past. So we are going after unconformity style mineralization.
Great. Well, like you said, before, ISO took a number of projects. It seems to me that just like you said, there's been 6 or 7 major discoveries in 20 years. It's a pretty high risk, high reward type adventure when you're doing uranium exploration. Some might say it's almost like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Your team's obviously been around a lot of success, and you said you're seeing some similarities or seeing some things in the past that is that do you think that's sort of improving the potential for discovery success, being able to draw upon your significant team and having been involved with identifying economic deposits before?
Yeah, definitely. I think importantly, when you are close to something, and you also know when you're not close to something, and so you won't waste drill holes in that area. And we have, even myself as a geologist, and I think our bench strength is much stronger in geology than I am, but I've seen hundreds of holes in these deposits, right? And so you can start to relate when you've seen that before, and when you can see something maybe that you're potentially getting at Ursa, and so you can apply all that same formula. So it increases efficiency, which is important. And you don't peak. We continue to improve. We continue to be more and more efficient. We continue to learn from our past successes, but also past failures, and continue to apply that to what we're targeting here. And I think we have a good balance on our team, where you do have kind of the more senior guys in Steve and Craig, who have access capital during tough times, have made discoveries during tough times. And you have our next level, where it's Andy, Justin, and myself, guys that are extremely hungry and passionate about making another discovery. And so, I think it does provide that good balance of different levels of experience, but also a team that's all had some success as recently as ISO Energy.
And a good one at that, for sure. Great opportunity for you guys to put your own thing together here, as you've done. Maybe we could switch gears a little bit. Thanks for the overview on sort of the company and the projects and your strategy. Maybe we could talk a bit about the cap table. What's your cap table sort of currently look like?
So we're currently sitting at 46 million shares outstanding. We finished December with about $5 million in the bank. As far as our cap table goes, insiders own about 24%. We have strategic investors own about 20%. And so the rest would be left to float. And so we're in good shape that way. We are a new story, so we have been able to maintain that cap table and, really time the market here, where we haven't had to have really dilutive financings or anything like that. And importantly, as you spoke to our stock price chart, is that we've raised money, at higher levels each time. Really, it's IPO'd at 15 cents, raised money at 25 cents, 35 cents, and we're currently raising money at would have been 47 cents. And so I think each time we've been able to create value to those shareholders, and we'll continue to look to do that in the future.
That's the way you want to do it. Sometimes it's easier said than done, and
certainly,
it's great to see you execute. It sounds like you probably have a supportive bunch, and I guess between your strategics and insiders, nearly 45% of the company's just right there. So with a pretty nice cap table. I know a lot of these other companies that are a little bit older or haven't had the ability to access capital at those sort of prices would have a lot more shares outstanding. So whenever you can find a company with less than 50 out, it's usually considered pretty tight. Maybe you could just comment a little bit. You've got a bought deal financing. Looks like it might be oversubscribed. There's like some final closing items to sort of attend to. Could you just go through the terms of that once more?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, our hard dollar component is priced at 47 cents, and then we're doing a charity flow through component, which would be at 71 cents. It's an instrument. Wow. Flow through is an instrument that's very valuable to Canadian exploration companies and very useful. We are looking to raise that $6.5 million. We are in the final process of closing that here in the next few weeks. Post financing, we'll be in great shape. We know we're kind of at $9 to $10 million in the bank. This financing should issue about 10 million shares, so our cap table will be in about 56 million outstanding, with decent amount of cash in the bank, and really set ourselves up for a fantastic 2024.
Provided that financing gets closed on and it's a bought deal, so they tend to. That's the nature of them. But I know it's nice to be conservative and not speak before the chickens are hatched.
Sure.
Would that mean that you'd be fully funded for your work activities for 2024?
Yeah, definitely 2024 and beyond, and it would really lead us to be able to do an aggressive exploration campaign throughout 2024. And then, obviously, if we have any sort of success on there, we'll continue to spend on the projects. But yeah, no, we're in great shape heading into this drill season.
Excellent. Why don't we sort of wrap up here with a few final questions? I appreciate your time. We're doing well on our time. Maybe to switch gears, what's a bit of advice for young professionals? You were a young professional. You got involved early in your career, had some success. Do you have any sort of advice for young professionals who might be considering mining or maybe the uranium space itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, really, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of great mentors. I think it's important to seek out a mentor. Sometimes it just happens that you manage to meet them, but mine would be Steve Blower, our chairman, and Craig Perry, strategic advisor. Those are two guys that have really taken me under their wing. They've had a lot of success themselves and really shown me the ropes, and have provided resources for me, to bounce ideas off of, and I think to take chances. It's a high risk, high reward environment. Have a level of passion there, and just go for it. And it is, like I said, there's times when it is very stressful, but there's also times when it's really rewarding. And I've had the privilege of being involved in great teams the entire way, and I think that's important too, is surrounding yourselves with a great team and really providing. I'm the CEO obviously, but we truly are a team that has that deep bench strength, and we all have our own individual successes. So if you do find that good team, stick with them. You can do it through multiple companies, whatever you do, but if you are able to secure that good team, stick with them. And you don't have to get rich the next day. You do have a long career ahead of you. Don't worry about that aspect of it, right? And if you do have that passion, if you do put in that hard work, it'll come over time. And so don't protect your name in that sense, and don't do anything where you just take chances, or where you might make a mistake in that regard. Just be patient and put in the hard work.
I've seen countless people who have tried to chase the money and they kick themselves afterwards because they should have just been patient and stuck with the team. So that's some great advice. Thank you for that. In terms of you've got a multifaceted career now. You've been on the technical side, you've been financial, corporate development. Is there a side of the business that you sort of enjoy more, or do you enjoy all of it? What parts of your current role are you enjoying the most now?
I think I really just enjoy telling the story, to be honest. I think us as a group has managed to put together a really compelling company, and with a great story that we're telling here, and we're a group of people that really enjoys working together. So my favorite part, I do like it all. Obviously, I think I am better suited for this side of it, obviously, and I think we have a tremendous group of geologists on the team that are fantastic in that part of it. So I think it works when we all play our roles here. And so I think for me, as long as I'm with this team, and with the group of people I am, whatever aspect I'm willing to do it all. It's just, I think, like I said, it's one of those things where I just really enjoy all aspects of it, and enjoy really being with this team.
Well, that's great. Well, it's nice that you've got the technical background. At least the geological team can't pull the wool over your eyes so easily. Other people that don't have that technical background are a little bit at risk for that. But also, it's a team that you've worked with for a while, and you guys probably have some great trust and camaraderie there. In terms of some catalysts, what would be some catalysts that shareholders and investors could watch for over the next 6 months?
Yeah, so we will be updating the market shortly here on our upcoming drill program at Ursa. And so we will have drills turning here shortly. and then we'll continue to drill throughout the summer season at Ursa. So there'll be lots of news flow in that regard. And I didn't touch on too many of the other projects, but like I mentioned before, we're always looking to upgrade that pipeline of exploration projects. We're always looking at different assets to bring in the fold. I think, 1 through 4, our projects we have right now are fantastic, but we're always looking to upgrade that, 5, 6, 7, whatever it takes. So keep an eye out for, us continuing to look to add to the project portfolio. But importantly, it has been a bit of a wait here. Obviously, we've been taking a year and a half to get to where we are right now. But the wait is over. Now we're getting back to doing what we do best, and that is drilling and exploring for uranium. And so I encourage people to follow the story and pay attention as we try and make another fantastic discovery.
Hey, well, that's a great way to end. I really appreciate the time. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. We'd definitely love to stay up on the story, and maybe we can have you back after you've got a bit of work, a few updates out. Maybe we could have you back in the next quarter or 6 months to do a bit of an update. But great to meet you, and great to find out and learn more about the company.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.